Hello everyone, welcome back um, to my channel. It's good to be back just with an opportunity to have a conversation. I like to talk about stuff that I've been going through, stuff that I've been learning from, and I just hopefully can impact and inspire and help somebody else who might be going through something similar. And so today I'm going to be talking about picking your battles wisely. All of us have battles and have faced battles, confronting situations and disagreements at some point in our lives. If you haven't faced a battle, trust me, you will. And not just one battle, but many battles, either by choice or by default, where you find yourself in a battle that is thrown at you. What we need to be aware of is that if all of us were to fight every single battle that comes our way, we'll be constantly exhausted and probably run ourselves into the ground. That's why it's important to be smart and wise in how we confront situations or issues that we face. I have learned that not every battle that we face is one we need to involve ourselves in. Choosing your battles means to be selective of the problems, the arguments, the confrontations that you get involved in. Instead of fighting every problem, you save your time for the things that matter. To choose your battles wisely simply means there's a time to fight and a time to back down and save the fight for another day. Choosing your battle often stands on a thin line between knowing when to take something further and knowing when to turn away. And backing down is not always easy. Sometimes our pride gets in the way. Instead of weighing the pros and cons, we make unwise decisions just to prove a point. This is often common when the battle or the conflict is between people in close relationships, like spouses or partners or parents and their children. And what most people unfortunately don't realize is that it's just as courageous to back down for the sake of others as it is to stand up and fight. After all, life isn't measured by how many times you stood up to fight. And frankly, life is too short to be wasted on certain fights and wars. And so the point of picking your battles is to be strategic in how you spend the limited resource called time. T-I-M-E, time. Fighting every battle means having less or no time for the things that matter to you. A perfect example of where people don't usually pick their battles wisely is in response to mainstream media as well as social media. Nowadays, the media causes us to be emotionally reactive to threats that are not really in our lives. A good example is all sorts of conspiracy theories that have come through as a result of the current COVID pandemic, and many other things that have come through that I will not go into today. Every day our emotions are stirred as we agree or disagree with what's taking place, as we read and watch, including the many interpretations that we receive from so-called experts and self-appointed experts. There's too much we don't know, and what is presented is, first of all, often only someone's interpretation, and secondly, it's usually only a part of what's really going on. We only get pieces of information on social media and from the press, and not the whole picture. And the pictures that we get only represent someone's interpretation, not everyone's. It's important to remember that there's more than meets the eye, no matter how clear a picture we get on our TV or on our computer screens. One could get drawn into thinking that what we see in the news is all or most of what's going on in the world. And usually that's not the case. And I'm not saying we don't have significant problems in the world right now. We do. Yes, we absolutely do. But we need to be careful so that when we are compelled to do so, we must be there to fight and reach out to help others, not to just fight because everyone is emotional and excited about an issue. Here are some points to help you to choose your battles wisely. Number 1, evaluate the problem. Believe it or not, most of the things that usually disrupt us are small, petty things with no impact in the long run. When faced with a problem, you want to ask yourself, is this problem really important? Do I really need to deal with it? And can my time be spent better elsewhere? Not everything is important. Some things simply don't matter in the long run. If you think about what mattered 5, 10, or even 20 years ago, if you've lived long enough, it's obvious that a lot of those things are insignificant now. Every battle takes up time. Every problem you get yourself involved in takes up time and energy. Even if you win that battle, it's possible that maybe your time could have been better spent doing something else, on something else. Sometimes winning isn't all that matters, but what matters is the best use of your time. We all have limited time, and at the end of the day, the only reason why anything matters is because we have limited time on earth. Recently, I found myself in a situation where I was disrespected by a work colleague who backstabbed me by bad-mouthing me in a malicious way. This wasn't your harmless, everyday office gossip. The person said some spiteful statements and made me look incompetent in my job. He would brag about himself and insult me and other people in the team during meetings and other conversations. He dismissed other people's ideas and the value of other people in general. And to make matters worse, this person was in a position of leadership over me. I was very upset, of course, with this situation. What kind of leader speaks to the people who work under them like this? How about values of loyalty, trust, and respect? General values of leadership and just working together. And so I had the choice to fight the person and show them that I was upset. And I started to do that. However, after thinking about it and seeking counsel and advice, I decided to just move on from that job. I realized and decided that I did not want to come to work to fight every day or work under someone who felt it was okay to disrespect and undermine me and those in the team. I decided that it was not worth it for me to waste my mental energy on someone who had been causing me anguish without taking time to know me, or at least try to be professional in their behavior towards me and others in the team. I reckoned it was pointless to refute or to pick a fight because his behavior was not changing at all. And I also realized that I had started to feel negative about myself and my job and my abilities. So I said to myself, Princess, you only have 24 hours every day. And only a few of those hours are actually productive hours. So how do you want to spend your time? Feeling angry about someone who is not worth your time in the first place? And my answer to that was no. Number 2, do a cost-benefit analysis. A cost-benefit analysis is just a systematic method of estimating the strengths and weaknesses, of a business investment, so that you can determine if the investment is good or not. And so when you're facing a potential battle, doing a cost-benefits analysis will help you to decide if the battle is worth fighting or not. If the costs outweigh the benefits, it's generally better to let go and to just move on. If the chances of success are very low, then it may be better to just move on as well. Ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen if you took on this battle or if you didn't? Is the risk worth taking? Stop and think about it. Your life has probably already got plenty of stress from general everyday things. So why add more if you can avoid it, right? When you're tempted to take on a battle, step back and decide if it's worth it or what it will require from you. It's been said, don't go to war when there are no spoils. In every battle, it's inevitable to sustain wounds. And we must learn to pick battles that are worth the wounds that we will sustain. Some of you just pick battle after battle and don't even know who wounded you or what wounded you in the end. Does this mean that we should avoid all battles if there's little or no chance of success? Not at all. Sometimes you want to pick a battle to make a point or as a matter of principle. For example, in the case of workplace harassment and bullying, you should raise the issue and let others know about it. Absolutely. The reward of engaging in the battle doesn't have to be monetary. It can just be a moral one or an ethical one even, like protecting your rights or preventing further recurrence of the problem and protecting others from encountering the same problem. Number 3, do not fight other people's battles. Many of us are hired into the battles of people who have made mistakes and want to use you as a shield. When people realize that they may not win the battle, that is when they rope in unsuspecting friends. Don't waste your emotion and intellect on someone else's highly emotional, semi-logical ego's conquest. Who is calling you to fight in their fight right now? People will come with their side of the story without giving you all the information. Don't just send your blows on emotion-charged claims. You will die for someone else's battle. You must demand more information. Ask for more information before you involve yourself. You must learn to ask, who am I fighting? And why am I fighting? Other times we get involved into fights because we heard things about other people. We get many opinions from other people but don't take the time to get to know that person. I'm in a similar situation right now. And in the end, we start fighting based on someone else's opinion. It's important not to believe everything that you hear, but to check first. Otherwise, you'll end up in a war that was never yours. When you make decisions that are yours, not others. It helps not to make decisions based on who is right, but rather what is right. If you make the decision on what is right, then it doesn't matter who is wrong, even if it's your family. Number 4, go for a win-win situation. What do I mean by that? If you decide to pick the battle, work towards a win-win, where both parties emerge victorious. Some of you are probably surprised, and thinking, why for a win-win? Why not just somebody wins, somebody loses, right? That's the whole point of a battle. Someone has to lose and someone has to win. Why should I help the other person win? Some of you would be asking. I came across this quote from an author called Alistair Arnott, and he said, "Fighting against is easy, but fighting for requires wisdom, courage, and vulnerability." So it's easy to fight against someone, it's easy to fight against something, but to fight for takes courage, takes vulnerability. That means you have to let go of your ego. That means you have to let go of the instinct to win, because we all want to come out on top. We all want to walk away with bragging rights. We all want to know that I taught them, I showed them. But actually, that is fighting against. And that's easier than fighting for. And many times, that's what we need to do to fight for. Be vulnerable enough to fight for that relationship. You see, like I said before, the battle isn't against the other person, but against the conflict. So you need to fight the problem and try to save the relationship. If you're frustrated with your boss, talk to him, talk to her, and find a way to resolve it. If you're angry with your partner, don't make things difficult by using passive-aggressive techniques and tactics. Instead, talk and try to work out your differences. Same with children and parents. If we all adopt this win-win mindset for conflicts, our battles will turn out so much better. So I've talked about, firstly, evaluating the problem. Number 2, do a cost-benefit analysis. Number 3, do not fight other people's problems. Number 4, go for a win-win scenario. And now number 5, have a cut-off point. All battles could be won if you had unlimited resources, right? However, the reality is that we don't have unlimited resources, especially time. I've already said this. We can't go on forever working on a problem if we are not progressing despite our best efforts. You try, you've tried. You can't go on forever. At some point, you need to recognize a cut-loss point that tells you, okay, that's it. Time to cut my losses and move on. And sometimes that's painful, but it might be the best thing that you can do in the situation. Number 6, let go of unresolved conflicts or issues. What do I mean by that? If the problem remains unresolved despite your best efforts, let it go. Let it go. Success doesn't come from winning every battle, but success comes from learning to let go when it's time to do so. And it's important to know that just because you stop fighting a problem, it doesn't mean that you have let it go mentally. So you might have stopped fighting, but mentally you haven't let it go. While it's important to know when to exit and stop fighting, letting go psychologically, emotionally is equally important. In the earlier example of my work conflict and my work situation, I had to make a decision to stop fighting. And after that, I decided to focus on my career next steps and moved on. But I had to let go mentally and emotionally before starting in my new role, because that had the potential to affect, future conflicts and how I handle them. And letting go is easier said than done. I get that. I know that. So how can we let go? Number 1, acknowledge your feelings. So things didn't go your way. How do you feel? Do you feel sad? Do you feel angry? Do you feel disappointed? Do you feel rejected? All those feelings are normal. Acknowledge them, but don't let them linger or they'll start to become poison. Number 2, understand why you're feeling this way. Why do you feel that way? What do you feel unjust about? Dig into the root of the issue. Maybe you feel disrespected. Maybe the situation confronts one of your fears or one of your weaknesses. Maybe it deals with something that matters a lot to you. Uncovering the root cause will help you to understand, and it will help you to let go. And then work on a new path forward. You can't move forward until you let go. That's the reality. You've got to let go for you to be able to move forward. So if the conflict can be resolved, find new ways to move on. With my new work situation, again, I just had to work on my CV and look for a new job. For someone else, it might be finding a different business partner. For others, it may be moving on from a toxic relationship or a dangerous relationship. And as I get ready to close, here's some questions to help you to pick your battles. 1. Can I move forward without holding a grudge or being resentful in my heart? If the answer to this is no, maybe you need to confront simply to clear your heart. Number 2, will I be able to change their opinion if I confront them? If not, then is there any value in you getting involved in this battle and confronting them? Number 3, is this issue impacting other people? Customers, the work team, the children, your circle of friends. If your conflict is simply between two people, you and one other person, then what's the urgency of the confrontation? Maybe leave the issue for now, and sometimes with the passage of time, the source of the conflict might cease to be an issue. However, if others are affected by the issue, by your disagreement, then possibly some sense of immediate resolution may become necessary. Not every conflict, however, is necessary to be resolved. Sometimes two people may have to agree to disagree, and if necessary, be willing to go their separate ways to avoid future conflict. You know, I never talk without referring to the Bible because I just love the stories of the Bible and reading the Bible, and I've learned so much from the Bible. In the book of Acts, there's a story of Paul and Barnabas. These were two guys who worked closely together. They were so close. They had gone through so much. They were like brothers. But it got to a point where they had a conflict, a disagreement, and they just couldn't resolve it amicably. So they had to agree to disagree and go their separate ways because it was starting to affect a whole community of other people that were involved in their lives. If you have time, go and read it. Really interesting story. Another question is, does my heart lead me to confront? Is my heart telling me I need to confront this person? I need to engage in this battle? If the issue won't leave your mind, you need to do something about it. Ask yourself, am I at peace with things as they are? Win or lose, will I be able to live with myself afterwards? This is a vital question because your conscience plays an important part in choosing the battles that you fight. There's nothing worse than running away from a battle that you know in your heart of hearts you need to stand and fight. Even if it upsets people or even if it makes you unpopular. At the end of the day, you need to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and believe that you made the decision that seemed genuinely right at the time. Be honest with yourself. And remember, you are the one that's going to live with yourself. I'm going to stop here. There's so much more that I could say. But I believe I've covered a few important points and points that have helped me in my journey and that continue to help me as I navigate life and relationships, because there's bound to be conflict, there's bound to be battles to be fought. And so I hope that a few of these points will help somebody, encourage somebody. And the next time you're facing a battle, use some of these points that I've raised to choose your battles and to focus on the important battles in your life. And I'm surely to be using these lessons even in my own life and in my own journey. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me. Thank you for taking the time to learn with me and to journey with me.